You have been warned. The United States is in a dangerous drift towards again choosing a war in the Middle East. You think that's an exaggeration? I'm just telling you right now, our actions for months now, and even longer than that, but especially since the Israel war started with Hamas, we have been drifting dangerously close to a situation to where we're going to actually choose to engage in a war, not just get sucked into it, but to actually choose to get sucked into it. Here's what has been said in recent days. Now, there's what I'm about to show you is specifically Jack Keane, because he's kind of one of the chief spokesmen, of this whole group here. He's far from the only one, but he's certainly the most outspoken. What he says carries a lot of weight because of the fact that he used to be a four-star general. He is very tightly connected with members of the administration and certainly in the Pentagon. So what he says, lots of people listen to. So yesterday, on a couple of different Fox News pieces, Jack Keane went on there to talk about this growing situation. The first one here, he was asked, hey, the administration is worried that we may be drifting into a place where the war could expand beyond Gaza Strip. And as you know, I've been harping on this from the outset, that it is in America's most important interest to prevent any escalation of this war and to get it over as soon as possible. That should be self-evident, and to most Americans it is. We'll talk about that in a minute. But to people like Jack Keane, it's not.
This also just in from the State Department. The U.S. remains incredibly concerned about the risk of the Gaza conflict spreading to other fronts. To what degree are you concerned that that will eventually happen, General?
It's stunning to me, that statement, because it already has happened. Isn't it a fact that the Iranian-backed militias in Iraq and Syria have attacked our bases scores of times since the October 7th attack? Isn't it a fact that the Houthi rebels sponsored by the Iranians have shut down virtually 50% of the traffic flowing through the Suez Canal because they're conducting attacks on the shipping lanes despite the escort ships there by the United States? For the life of me, I don't know why we keep wringing our hands about the Iranians and are so feared by the fact that they will escalate if we take decisive action against them. I've never seen anything quite like it, that this administration is so unwilling to confront who the major oppressor and aggressor is in the region, Iran, and the fact that they are pulling all the strings here.
You see the absolute disgust in his voice as he talks about what's wrong with these people. What's wrong with our administration? They should just go and punch these guys and hit them hard, because what are they going to do about it? I'm just appalled that the risk of escalation is actually on their mind, that they're actually concerned about the possibility of a war expanding that could get us involved with it. That's Keane's view on there. But if you think it's limited, unfortunately, he confirmed that elsewhere on Fox during the same day.
How far should we go? Should we attack Iranian oil installations? Should we attack their nuclear installations? That would be an act of war.
Well, anytime you're firing a shot at an adversary, that's an act of war. So, I wouldn't underscore it the way you do. I think we would conduct a limited, measured attack on Iran. It would not an all-out act of war where we're hitting multiple military bases at the same time. We're taking down their headquarters in Tehran. We're destroying their entire infrastructure, something you saw us do in Baghdad. That's really an act of war. This would be a limited attack. And the Central Command that oversees the region, they have a target list of what to do here. My bias is the IRGC Quds Force is overseeing and directing these proxies. I would go after their training base, IRGC training base, some of their military bases, or even their headquarters.
It's not a big act of war. It's just kind of a medium-sized one, maybe a little one. Basically saying, look, Tehran, if we invade your country, like Desert Storm, 500,000 troops rolling in, and okay, got it. That's an act of war. But this kind of stuff, this is cool, man. We'll just launch some missiles in and blow some stuff up, and then you'll back down. That's just how the rules work. So that's the kind of mentality, Jack Keane. I'm kind of mocking what he's saying here. He's not mocking. He's not kidding at all. He actually is saying that. And again, folks, I'll reiterate here. This is a guy people listen to in the White House and in the Pentagon. And you heard him talk about that, how he's tied into a lot of the target list that the Pentagon has. So he knows a lot of the people in there that would be called on to act this. And one only assumes that many others hold the same view that he does on the inside there. Now, to its credit, the White House is worried about it and is concerned, but even their mentality raises a big red flag to me. In Politico yesterday, there was an article that was talking about this very issue there, in which the authors write, however, there are signs that the administration is worried about these threats increasing in the region. In the aftermath of the attack on Iran on Wednesday, officials across the administration, from the Pentagon to the State Department to the intelligence agencies, began assessing how Iran or its proxies in the Middle East could directly target U.S. or its allies in the region. The scramble inside the administration to draw up reports on potential points of attack and possible responses this week came as a result of orders of the top echelons of the administration over fears that the violence in the region will only continue to grow and that Washington will eventually, quote, have to intervene. Look, folks, we don't have to intervene. There is nothing that says that we have to intervene. And this is a fundamental issue that I want to address right here. And I think it's crucial that we talk about this for a second. Why should the United States go to war? And just in general terms, under what conditions should America go to war? Is it to achieve preferred policy outcomes? Is it only if you're attacked, like Pearl Harbor style? Is there something else in between? What is the reason you should go to war? Now, I'm not saying what have we done. I'm saying what should we do? What we have done is pretty self-evident. In fact, the reason why Jack Keane can go on television all the time and advocate for such lethal kinetic means is because it has become normalized. War is normalized. It's not even a problem. A lot of people don't even think twice about it. They just say, yeah, if there's an issue there, threaten to send in an aircraft carrier strike group, send in the special forces here, fire some cruise missiles there, like into Syria or into Baghdad, as we did just a couple of days ago, because somebody was doing something we didn't like. So we took them out, even though they're a part of the government of Iraq that we allegedly support. That we'll discuss that another day. That's just more of our discontinuity and the weirdness of some of our own counterproductive policies. But folks, what we should be doing is our military should be limited to only defending America's interest. War should be the absolute last resort, and that only used if our physical lives are in danger, or if someone is looming an attack, someone is just about to attack us. That's it. That's what the Congress, that's what the Constitution talks about. That's what the 1973 War Powers reiterated, that the president is at least not authorized to just go and use military force wherever he wants. See, even Keane is locked into that mentality as well. He said the Biden administration should. He didn't say Congress should. He didn't say the American people should. He said that that's what the administration, because he thinks that it's kind of the elite running the show here. Folks, let's just make sure you're tracking this here. This isn't about you. This is not about you. This is not about your security. It's about what some of the extremely high elite, the limited number of small people that are calling the shots in this country, it's what they want. You have people like Keane. You have John Bolton. You have Lindsey Graham. You have Mike Pompeo. All of them are advocating vigorously for strikes against Iran. Our country is not threatened by Iran. They're a small midland power. I think their total defense budget's 12, 14, 15 billion, something like that. Ours is almost 900, and we're afraid of this little ant over there. Why are you so, drawn to wanting to go to war with these people, and you're actually looking for an opportunity to go to war? You know who doesn't want war? You don't want war. According to a latest Quinnipiac poll that came out pretty recently, 84% of American voters are concerned the U.S. is going to get drawn into a conflict. You don't want to get drawn into a conflict. You want to end conflict. You want to prevent conflict. You want our troops to go to war only if we're directly threatened. And look, let's just add another layer to this. Okay, I used to serve. I served almost 21 years of active service. Went to combat deployments 4 times. I've known some people who were killed in action. I mean, who doesn't in the world today? That if you were served, you're almost certainly going to know people who were killed in action. It is extremely egregious. It is anguishing to the highest order the family members of those left behind when our soldiers are killed. We should only even contemplate sending them to potential death unless it is absolutely critical to our national security. That's why they signed up, folks. That's why people like I did, people like people we had on recently, Matt Ho, Jim Webb, these folks joined and volunteered to serve because they love you. They love our country, and they're willing to put their lives on the line for you. What they're not willing to do, what they didn't sign up to do, was to be used as just some chess piece or some token, whatever, or even not to be considered and say, yeah, we want to launch these missiles into Iran because we don't like what they're doing. We want to solve that nuisance once and for all. You're going to use war to go solve a nuisance in a region, and you seem unconcerned if American people are going to die in the result of that. Because I know King doesn't want this to be an act of war, as he calls it. He just wants it to be a limited military strike, and he wants there to be no consequences. But guess what? It ain't your call. You don't get to choose what the other side does. You can hope they do something. You can want them to do something, but they get a vote. I mean, it's a classic statement, but true as can be. And we can see there is so much anger in the world right now, so much violence all around, everywhere you want to look, it seems. This is a different time, and you better recognize that times are different, and you have to contemplate the consequences of your actions. And I pray to God that the White House is doing that right now, because I'm here to tell you, aside from the pointless loss of life that it would cause on the ground in Iran, and most importantly, our troops to die for nothing, a war that should never be fought. That's what is at stake here. We should not fight this war, but there's bigger reasons even than that. Folks, listen, I'm telling you, we are not in a position to fight a war right now. Let me just kind of lay some things out there for you. We've been talking about this in context of some other episodes we've been doing lately, but they have direct implications to the possibility of getting sucked into a new war here. Because already we've given so much ammunition to Ukraine over the last 2 years. We've given so much ammunition now to Israel as well. We're sending more weapons and stuff to Taiwan. We want them to improve there, so we keep sending more and more weapons over. But look, we're badly needed missiles of our own are now in insufficient quantities in our inventories. It's going to take years to replace all of those. Those are just the missiles he's talking about in that picture right there. But it's also our Stinger missiles, our ATACMS missiles, our other kinds of long-range missiles, anti-tank missiles, artillery shells, just regular machine gun bullets, for crying out loud. We've sent hundreds of millions of them to Ukraine, and the so far the flow hasn't stopped. They're keeping going on. I don't know if they're going to, if the Congress is going to approve more money here, but they better be making sure they understand that, this so-called drawdown authority where they're taking stuff out of our inventory and sending it over there, it's going to take multiple years to get that replaced. Now, you get yourself sucked into a war here. Let's say that King gets his way, and that because of the other thing I've been warning about forever, Americans in either Iraq or Syria get killed in one of these strikes. And now then the pressure on Biden is too great. He can't resist it. And he does fire into some of these, into Iran as a result of that. Or we fire into Yemen against the Houthis because some other ships are attacked in the region, which there's also a big push for. And then all of a sudden, now then we're under attack. They attack us in larger numbers. They attack us with some precision missiles. And now all of a sudden we are in a war. We don't have the internal capacity to wage a long and sustained war. We don't have the personnel. Folks, you've been paying attention? We've covered this as well. We have a recruiting problem. People already aren't going to join the war, and in part because of stuff like this. They don't want to go join a war where they're going to be sent to fight for some dumb reason, something that doesn't even relate to American national security interest. Because look, there's things we can do to avoid this. I mean, here's what we could do right now, because let me just preface this by saying that the Biden administration is in a really tough, nearly no-win situation here. Anything that he does, I mean, if President Biden today said, hey, look, tell me what you think we should do, and whatever you say, we're just going to do it. I can't sit here and say, okay, great, here's the right answer because this will get the problem solved without risk. There is no such answer right now. because we have taken so many foolish decisions and had so much foolish actions for years leading up to this. There is now no good answer. You just have to be wise in how you manage this and navigate out of this very volatile situation to prevent war from going on. There's a few things we can do. They won't have any guarantees, but they're wise at the moment, and they may keep us out of war. Number one is that we need to stop with all of this fiery rhetoric all the time, and we need to start doing more diplomacy. All these strikes we've already done in the recent last few months, they don't deter anybody. So even with what Keen's talking about, they have clearly backfired, because all it does is instigate more. Every time we do something in the Middle East and strike some target, there are more missiles that follow almost immediately after it. That's a fact. The second thing we need to do, we have to rein Israel in. Folks, I know it's not popular. I know a lot of people don't want to hear it, but our national security is on the line here as well. As we had with Jim Webb on yesterday, we talked about some of the details of what American forces do in similar sized cities going after similar targets. There is a way to go after the horrific culprits of 10/7 that attacked Israel, the terrorist attack that slaughtered hundreds of people, over 1,000 of them. You can go after them in a targeted way where you have PID, what they call positive identification. It takes a lot longer to do. It took us 7 months to get through Ramadi, which is a city of similar size to Gaza City in the north. 7 months to go after it. But the casualties, the civilian casualties, were very low. And we worked hard to get the people on our side to show them that we actually care for them and we're trying to protect them. And we did. There is a way. It takes a lot longer. What we shouldn't do is just say, hey, Israel, whatever you want to do, here's more money, here's more ammunition, just keep doing. We'll ask for you not to do something, but do nothing if they don't. It's time for us to say, nope, we're going to hold you to the same standard that we hold our own troops to. Okay, we're not trying to be mean to Israel. We're saying, hey, the same standards we hold our troops to, we're holding you to. If you want our money, if you want our missiles, if you want our political support in the United Nations, there's a cost to it. It should not be free. And no one should shy back from that. That's not anti-Israel. That is, ironically, that is pro-Israel, because we're trying to protect them from their worst impulses. It is definitely not working out their way right now. And as you can watch some of our previous episodes here, I'm telling you, their military operations right now are militarily unattainable. They're not going to achieve the peace they want based on their current course of action. It's a separate issue. But that's also Israel's issue. They have the call to make on that. What is our call to make is how far we go in support of it in pursuit of American national interests. That has to predominate here. And look, nobody wants to say, hey, let's back down from these guys, from these attacks, because if an American is attacked, we're honor bound. We have to respond to it. I would not advocate that if another base in the Middle East is attacked today, that we should do nothing. But look, the situation is already getting out of control. What Biden did, the third thing he needs to do, withdraw those troops and redeploy them out of pointless harm's way, where they're out in the middle of the deserts in Syria and many places in Iraq. Redeploy them elsewhere in the Middle East where they are protected. You say all the time that the security of our armed forces and our personnel is the highest priority as president. It should be, but then do something about it. Don't just let them sit there as a target in the ground. Get them out to where they're no longer a point of vulnerability, where it's no longer an easy access to these Iranian-backed groups, and get them to where they're protected and our interests are assured. Now, nobody wants to do that. You know why? Because we love to be tough all the time and only. But right now, folks, if we need to eat a little crow, then that's what we need to do. Because the other thing that if we get sucked into a big war, you know what we've done by this support of Ukraine for so long? It's not just that we've, depleted our stocks. That's a big issue. But what I contend is a bigger issue going forward, even after those final shell falls over there. We have basically handed Moscow an actual laboratory to figure out how to defeat America's military force. You realize that? They know now how the electronic warfare works on our long-range missiles, on our HIMARS, on our ATACMS, on some of our aerial bombs that we provided them, Storm Shadow missiles, other ones that the Germans have sent over. Lots of our drones, so many things that we've sent over there. Russia is now learning how to defeat them. They're learning where the vulnerabilities are. That includes our aircraft, anti-aircraft systems. That includes our aircraft, and pretty soon it's going to include the F-16 itself, which is the backbone of our air fleets. And all of these kinds of things that we've been doing, they have been learning for 2 years how to defeat them. That's why you don't hardly hear about HIMARS anymore after it was this big splash, because Russia figured out how to counter it. And now a significant portion of those missiles for electronic warfare means they're knocked off course. We don't even know how to do that. We don't know for sure what they're doing. We're trying to figure it out. But now, if we had to go fight tomorrow, our enemy is almost certainly already going to know how to defeat our stuff. And it won't be effective even at the beginning as it was when we first put it in there for Ukraine side. So everywhere you want to look, we are diminishing our capacity to defend you. We're putting your troops at higher risk. And we are setting the stage for potentially, I know it's not even mentally in the lexicon for most people, we could lose a future war if we get sucked into one here, because we are already scattered to the four winds all over, like 800 bases around the world and throughout the Middle East. You see that picture that popped up there a second ago about just the Middle East. That's just there. We have bases all over the world. Our forces are spread to the four winds. Our training is not up to standard right now because it's so convoluted and confused. We don't even know what to train on anymore. We're trying to get back to the large scale training, but it's way behind what it should be, folks. I'm just here to tell you, this is not a beat on America thing. This is a protect America thing. We are not ready for war. And if you think that we may go to war someday with China over Taiwan, or if things go bad in Europe with Russia, if you think that's going to happen in the future, you should be the first one to say, let's cut our losses here. Let's get this war over with. Let's get the Ukraine war over with as soon as possible and start the process of actually returning our armed forces to a strong position. That's what we should be doing so that we defend our country, and that truly, if we are attacked, we can win. That's what I'm all about. I am not anti-war at all. I am for a very strong pro-national defense for America. But that means that we have to be wise about what we do. We can't actually be eager to get into a war. We should put them only off as a last resort so that our country and our citizens and our troops are protected. That's what we should be doing, not being eager to go into a war. And that's your deep dive for today. We ask you to come back here just shortly. Actually, we're going to have another important episode with Professor Bartov, one of our go-to guys from the Middle East. It's going to give us some very interesting information on the current state of that war right there. You won't want to miss it. Be sure to like and subscribe and share with your friends so that they have this and that they too can see that we are unintimidated and uncompromised on bringing you the truth every day. Thanks, and we'll see you soon.